Hey everybody, it's Brett with the weekend recap here. Getting in a little bit late because we wanted to see how things sorted out over the weekend with the huge collapse of FTX last week. And now we're hearing rumors of other exchanges such as crypto.com that and others that may be also affected. So with that, why don't we dive into the screen share here and we'll take a look. So let's see. First of all, lots of news all over, and I'll turn off the camera here in a minute when we get to the charts. So people are saying Sam fled the country. Apparently, that's not true, but you can see all kinds of different news out from other experts in the industry here. And so Sam suddenly, overnight almost, has wiped out $14 billion in net worth for himself and investors. And it's our Lehman Brothers event. It seems like, and it's really not a good thing. 152 billion may have been affected. So you've seen the news, I'm sure, all over the different channels. And so what really happened? We can unpack that, but I'm sure that others are unpacking it as we speak. So what I'm going to do is just cover, well, basically Sam has a sister company called Alameda Research. Originally, that was the founding company that he started with. They were arbitraging Bitcoin on different exchanges, allegedly making $1 million a day. Not really clear who the finance backer was initially for Alameda, but what is becoming clear is that his girlfriend, or sorry, ex-girlfriend, was running Alameda, and Sam was, through some non-regulated accounting, was transferring billions of dollars of FTX client money over to Alameda for their prop trading and basically programmatic trading. There are also rumors they were trading against the actual customers, which doesn't surprise me. It should always be a red flag when the CEOs in these companies are not in regulated countries. So whether it's Singapore or Bahamas, and there isn't oversight, there isn't auditing. So FTX should have been a huge red flag for all of us, and it did come up as a red flag for some people who predicted this in the weeks and months coming into it. Unfortunately, not enough people heard about that. So essentially, they propped up their own token, FTT token, and just giving everyone a summary of what happened. So Binance was an early investor in FTX and Alameda, so more FTX than Alameda rather. But in the last few years, they wanted to divest. When FTX started becoming a bigger competitor, they sold their shares. The problem was they took a large percentage of the money as FTT tokens, and so when some of this started to emerge last week, CZ, the founder of Binance, suggested that he was going to start selling their FTT token, and I'm sure he knew more than they're letting on publicly yet, which also sparked a big sell-off in the markets, understandably, so that the FTT token started dropping in value, and then of course Binance started to dump theirs, which sent everything spiraling down, and the house of cards collapsed because despite Sam's mention that he had plenty of cash to cover the assets, they didn't. And so I'm sure you guys all know this already. But at any rate, with that, let's kind of dive over into the charts. And that's a quick recap. Let's see where we are and what's likely to happen next. So I'm going to turn off the camera here and go full screen on the charts here. So what we're looking at is our monthly chart. Now, last month we had a nice bullish engulfing candle right here, which was looking pretty good. Unfortunately, as of now, we are in a big red bearish engulfing candle on the monthly. Now, what is interesting is I have been calling for the 16,500 level for months, and we can get into why I think that was going to happen, and publicly predicted that back on May 19th. One of the reasons is just in trading and charting, these large candles here often have their midpoints tested. And the other reason was that was a key sort of level of the weekly moving average support. And so for those two reasons, now in part a little bit of this was luck, and it was also late. But in terms of the prediction here, I'll just pull this over here just to show you guys that I did kind of predict this here back on May 19th. And sorry, I'm going to hide this when you see my personal Facebook. But right here, we see that on May 19th, that I said will go to 32,000 and then to 22,000. It was a week late on this, and then 16,500. So a few months late on that, but the reasons for that are still intact. And so here we are. Nobody thought that would happen. People laughed, and they've since erased their laughing face. But at any rate, here we are at 16.5. So the big question is, where do we go from here? And unfortunately, the answer is down, because now it's not 100%, but let's take a look. So every time we have a bearish engulfing candle on the monthly, it does head lower. See these red boxes here. This was a bearish engulfing candle, headed lower. We have another similarly shaped large bearish engulfing candle. And if you're not familiar with that, you can look it up online. Essentially just means that the sellers are in control and the entire price action here of the last month has now been wiped out. So in terms of that, we can see the opposite also on these these boxes here, the green ones, the bullish engulfing candles on the monthly, always, and I hesitate to say always, almost always, but here we can see normally and almost always will go higher. So we had one here, we had one here, and sure enough, these went higher. Similarly, that one went higher. So we were hopeful, I was hopeful that this would have signaled the bottom. Of course, nobody could have foreseen the blow up. Well, can't say nobody. A few people did, and some people online are being very vocal about that. And so, but in the end, it's going to improve the overall crypto market. It's just going to be painful in the short term, unfortunately. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm drawing this other box here for another bullish engulfing candle in green. So we want to be watching for these things. The other thing we can look at here are the sort of overall health of the market, the MACD starting to turn around, but just we're not there yet. So nothing really that we can gather from that screen on that side. Let's take a look at the weekly, and then we'll look at some other things here. So these are some lines that I had drawn weeks ago as possible scenarios. Clearly, this scenario here failed as far as pushing higher in this accumulation zone. So now we're down into the lower accumulation zones. And I'm sorry, let me jump back to the monthly really quickly. The levels I have drawn as likely next support levels right here around 14,000, because that was the very top of the June 2019 high. Also acted as resistance and then support when these flipped over right here, as we can see in the beginning or more towards 2020. So this was in October of 2020, November, December. So the 14,000 level likely will hold temporarily. I do think that there are more shoes to drop. And with this volatility, institutions are publicly saying that they really can't and won't invest in crypto again until we have regulation. So there may be more divesting to happen. BlockFi is apparently in trouble as well. So I think 12,500 is a likely zone. Might be a little bit higher as this rises. This is the 100-month moving average. And so whereas the blue line, let's just unpack this a little bit. The blue line, the 50-month moving average, held as strong support for a lot of the Bitcoin journey here. And if we go all the way back to the 2014 bottom and the 2018 bottom, and here again, so that 50-month held as very strong support. Now that we have broken down below this, clearly the next line in the sand is the 100-month moving average. And again, currently is right about 12,700, 12,500 would have been like a few months ago. And the other thing we want to watch for is typically in these downturns, we see 84 to 85% drawdowns from the market top. We've seen this in the prior cycles that we've been outlining here. And so if that were to happen here on this downturn, that would take us all the way down even to 10,000. So I think that 14,000 is the next line in the sand, and below that, say 12,500. Sometimes these things overshoot a bit, and then below that at $10,000, right in there is where it would likely hold, with a small chance that it goes down to 97.50, 97.80, where there's a CME gap. So this whole region here is where we'd want to see and look for a bottom. And so that's what we want to keep an eye on for. But I think in truth, this very likely heads lower into the end of the year. And of course, we know what happened last December, and that's when we sort of saw everything kind of collapse and so kind of fall down here. So where I'm estimating we start to turn around here, probably first quarter of 2023. So we're going to draw this and visualize it out, sort of this kind of a thing happening here in the first quarter of 2023. And we just need to see where everything falls out. So in these accumulation zones, which are similar, this is the weekly chart of Bitcoin here, since this has been invalidated. This line here kind of puts us down in this range, as I've said, to the $14,000 range. So a good strategy potentially is to start dollar cost averaging in these levels. And certainly if we get down in the 10 to 12,000 range, that would be the accumulation zone 3, where I think that that would be likely areas where people start coming back into these markets. And timing wise, again, in the first quarter of 2023. That's my best guess here. We can also take a look at some of the other indicators like the RSI, which here we see had previously broken down from key support here just a bit, bounced up, started running up. It was rejected at this upper line on the RSI and is sort of trying to kind of put in a bit of a bounce, but the pain is not over yet. This was a major, major blow to the cryptocurrency markets here. And of course, this site had drawn out weeks ago. Here, back in October, the stochastics RSI clearly showing that likely we'd head down, had a bit of a fake out there, and now we're heading down lower. So we have more downside to go, it looks like, on these two. Okay, so in terms of the weekly also, we are decidedly below the bull market support band where we got rejected here, and our custom indicators, the early reversal indicator here, the red arrow clearly showing that we go lower, and also our trend strength indicator. These are custom proprietary indicators that through Max here is we've agreed to make those available to you guys if this is something that you'd like to have and add to your trading portfolio of tools. If you'd like to find out more about that, that is just at moonstream.io/success. And you can learn more about these indicators if you're actively trading and you'd like to see what's going on and really kind of front run these things and have a predictive indicator on where things are likely to go. So that's moonstream.io/success. Some of you have been asking about that, so I asked if that was okay, and Max said sure. So that's where you can learn more about those. And at any rate, more importantly, let's get back to what we see here. This key support line, that 20,000 line, clearly broken and not looking strong. Bull market support band rejecting the price action. So again, where could we go? I have this line drawn at 12,500, which is also this top here way back in August of 2020. And so that's another key line, and so that's on our chart from the monthly 100-month moving average as well. So there's not a whole lot more we want to look at on these charts here. We've already covered those. I do think it heads lower, as we've talked about, for reasons that we've discussed. So on the daily chart here also, let me just open this up so it's easier to see. And so we don't have a very bullish looking chart here. And so this is all in alignment. Let me turn off the ERI here. We don't really have a clear signal. I would actually, my signal for coming back in, I'll be watching these key levels, the 14,000, 12,500, etc. But I won't be considering coming back in until we start seeing the green ERI publishing, as well as our trend strength indicator also going green. It looks like I've actually turned that off, and some of our other indicators also coming back up in here. So that's what I'll be watching for. For right now, I would suggest, well, I'll take this off. This has clearly been edit validated. And so let's take a look at some of these other projects as far as what is looking stronger than others. Let's look at Ethereum, which was starting to look better than Bitcoin, but of course this is pulled back down. And what we would want to be watching for, this is our radar as well, which is another tool in the suite of indicators that we use. On the daily, weekly, monthly, bearish, a little bit bullish on the 4-hour, but this is what I would expect to see on the Ethereum, is sort of push up into this area, which is now going to be strong resistance. And so in terms of where might be a good place to start accumulating Ethereum, is in this buy zone here, and that is it's not financial advice. This is just notes to myself and for educational purposes. By the way, if you're enjoying this, please do like and subscribe to the channel down below. And so this buy zone, where is this? If we go left, when in doubt, zoom out here, we had an accumulation zone back in here between, say, 500 and 600 on Ethereum, even 650. So I have alerts set in this region. This is where I will be looking to start accumulating Ethereum in my IRA and other accounts, and so I'm mostly in cash right now, and so we want to keep an eye on this. Now, if it does start to bottom or bounce at the 900 level where it did before, and we start to see an ERI printing on that, that's where I would also consider start dollar cost averaging back into Ethereum. So I think this will be a big high flyer once things do turn around. Since the merge was successful and now it has deflationary pressure, Ethereum is certainly one to watch. All right. In terms of what's unusual is I started seeing the altcoin and the, forgive my French, the shitcoin perpetual index bouncing a bit here and showing some signs of strength on the altcoin perps. Now, these are generally the sort of lower cost and lower price ones. So, why would that be? Well, let's take a look at Bitcoin dominance, which was lower. And generally, when Bitcoin dominance is down in these regions, you see a little bit of a rally in the altcoins. And I will just touch on Ethereum dominance. And look there, drew this drew this a long time ago, back in the summer, and sure enough, this is coming down and starting to bounce a little bit. Now, does it hold here? Who knows? This just means that the money that's coming into crypto is largely going into Ethereum. So I'd like to see this break above this 20% line, and then I'd see, say, Ethereum is back off to the races here at some point. Also, USDT dominance money coming back into Tether on a proportional basis, which means coming out of crypto as a whole. The DXY, though, is falling back. This is interesting. So the dollar running out of steam here. This usually runs in an inverse direction to Bitcoin and crypto. And so I want to keep an eye on that. And so it's unusual. This is coming down and crypto is also coming down. But certainly the news from last week would explain all of that. Total market cap here, tried to get back above a trillion, failed. And so I do think, similar to Ethereum, this would be an ideal place to accumulate when we get down into this zone here, where the crypto market cap between 500 billion and 600 billion. I think we'll see money coming back into this market, but it's going to take a little bit of time. Again, kind of looking at end of the year and first quarter of 2023 before we start seeing a meaningful volume coming back into these markets and pushing things higher. So with that in mind, I don't see a whole lot of activity here. I think what we could do is look at Solana and some of these that are most affected by the big sell-off. Of course, these were large holdings by FTX and backed by FTX. So all red on the radar. Not a coin to be buying in here at this point, I would think. But if we do wanted to keep an eye on it, I'll just move this down. This liquidity pocket from earlier last year is certainly one to watch. So it would, it could bounce a bit out of this range. But as long as my radar's all red on these 4 time frames, I would not be looking at buying any Solana. And these projects are very likely permanently wounded for a while. It's unclear what's going to happen. The other one that SRM was affected quite a bit. So if I just go back onto one of my other watch lists, and full disclosure, I own SRM. It's a derivatives exchange that was backed by SAM and FTX. So not one of the not looking particularly good here. The bearish wedge broke down and. From its high, it's down 96%. So this is now might be one to watch. 99%. Sorry about that. And so does it survive or not? It's highly speculative at this point. So at any rate, be careful of all these projects that are going to be impacted or were impacted already by the FTX and the SAM, some people calling him scam Bankman-Fried. We do see some speculation he goes to jail. I would not be surprised. He was doing things that allegedly were really not allowed, not a good idea. Some here looking pretty good still, though, not terribly affected. So Polygon in an uptrend still, Chainlink a little bit down in accumulation zone there, but it's going to be a while for these things to sort out. So, I'm just skimming through some of these that we're watching. Holy cow. Well, Boson from beat down on this level, 72% doesn't mean much. And these are just some other smaller coins that people are loading up on. Might explain why the altcoin perpetuals is going up. People are buying into these coins, some of the lower cap coins that have been beaten down so far that hey, how low can they go? And hopefully they don't go to zero. So with that, everybody, that's all I have for you today. And so trade smart, not often. Be careful in terms of, don't rush into these levels. I wouldn't try to catch a falling knife based on the bear flag that we drew back in this area. Technically, it broke here. That still puts us down around that 14,000 level. It just tried to get back above it. It's technically a different kind of bear flag, but just to draw it a little differently. And I hate to redraw these things, but this I'm not gonna let me not do that. I'm gonna stick with my $14,000 level as we break down this from here. That would be my target, as we talked about. So at any rate, we'll keep you guys apprised, and we'll talk to you again soon. Again, if you like the content, hit like and subscribe. And if there's anything you want to spend more time on, please leave it in the comments down below. Also, we'll note there's quite a few scam comments down below, and not to pay attention to those and anyone recommending anybody else in these markets. That is not us. Take care, everybody, and have a great week.